Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are on our planet, on this globe. Thank you for joining me. And my goodness, it's Mother's Day. What could I say? Thank you to all the mothers and all the sacrifice and the hard work, and of course the unending love, unconditional love that you give to your children, to all our children. Thank you. My name is Sroda Aglago. Wow. Thank you for joining me on Love, Forgive, Live podcast. Today's topic is very important to me because a lot of times people wonder, how in the world do they begin to go through the days? What I'm talking about is this. I know that was a pretty blanket statement or comment. But the fact of the matter is this. No matter what we do and who we are, we cannot have a neutral thought. We cannot see anything neutral. Because everything we see comes with our perception. And that perception is coming from what we've experienced, our thoughts, our experiences, our hang-ups, our past, our pain, and everything we've gone through. There's nothing that we could understand or go through without a perception. Let me make this clear. Everything we see has something that we've experienced with, or something that we believe we know, or our perception of it, or prior perception of it already. So when we see things, we bring that to the table. And when we bring that to the table, it'll always interfere in what is presently happening. So today I'm going to talk about how to relate to one another, or our experiences with one another. It's very important to realize that what we think or what we think we've seen will definitely interfere in how we experience one another. Because your perception is always involved in the cause and effect. Because that thought will bring out a cause and, of course, an effect. That relationship will never be completely neutral. It doesn't happen. Because your perception always interferes in what you see in order to form your thought. No one sees anything neutral because they cannot see anything that is neutral. We don't exist in that thought process. We always bring something to the table. The goal of how we experience each other is to recognize the fact that we do have that. And when you recognize that and you are aware of it, that you do bring your perception or your ideals or your experiences, your hang-ups, your bias, and it could be your pain, you experienced pain in the past, childhood traumas, anything. You always bring that to every experience. And when that happens, it's very important to be aware of that. And that is the goal, like I said at the beginning. Because you would always be comparing your experience, your present experience with something. And the strange thing is, it's very easy for us to do that. The harder one is to become aware and question yourself and ask, is what I am doing or what I'm seeing truly being experienced as it is? That's where the most difficult thing comes from. And it surprises me how often I hear people say, oh my goodness, I didn't know that I could do this. How in the world did things get this way? But here's the thing. How often, let me ask this question, how often has anyone truly taken the time to see things as it is truly happening for what it is in the moment? That's the major question. I will admit, I personally have not. And it's definitely a work in progress, because every experience that I go through, especially when it involves other people and of course something new, I take the time to allow me to process it, in the sense that, am I truly approaching this as it is for the moment? And I do this quite often. Sometimes I may be having a discussion with someone, and then something gets said, and then I'm like, whoa, where did that come from? We were talking about A, B, C, D. How did G come in? And so I often take the time to notice that. It used to not be that easy for me to notice, but I think once you practice this, it becomes easier. It becomes something that you do more often. And of course, it stems from understanding yourself and recognizing the fact that you don't have all the answers, and that things will come at you. And you have to be obedient and ready to learn the lesson that needs to be learned from it. Now, in relation to today's topic, let me read you this little writing. It's just a passage in a Course of Miracles. It says, I see no neutral things because I have no neutral thoughts. Once again, I see no neutral things because I have no neutral thoughts. Because that's who we are. We bring something to the table. We bring a perception to it. And that perception will cause us to see things from that point of view. and the effect becomes the result of what our perception was in the beginning. And I believe this is always being experienced on a daily basis, if not every hour, every minute. And I'll give you an example. I remember one time I was speaking to a friend, and they brought something from their person, put it on the table. And I didn't know what it was. And without knowing what it was, I perceived the item to be a cigarette lighter. So, and it's funny when you hear the end of it. I saw a cigarette lighter and I was like, oh my goodness, you smoke? That was the first thing that came out of my mouth. You smoke? When did you start smoking? I didn't know you to smoke. And then she looked at me and she said, where did I tell you I was smoking, and where do you get off? Where did this come from? Then I said, well, I saw the cigarette lighter, so I thought you smoked. And she said, what cigarette lighter? And I go, that thing over there. And she said, you think that's a cigarette lighter? And I was like, yeah, it is, isn't it? And she's like, no. And she said, wow. You could have asked me, what is that? Instead of assuming and perceiving the idea that it is a cigarette lighter, you could have asked me, rather than thinking all the stuff and not asking me the question, but you just started perceiving your thoughts, or, what you thought, and then just speaking of it, and then saying something I don't do. Then I was like, well, then what is it? She said, that's what you should have asked the first place. I was like, oh boy, I stuck my foot in my mouth this time. And I realized she wasn't really happy about the way I spoke to her. So I apologized and I said, you're right. I added my own judgment and perceived something that wasn't to be true, but it's because I perceived it as something that I thought I'd seen before. I made that comment. Forgive me. And she said, it's okay, but let me tell you what this is. This is actually an earbud you put in your ear. And I was like, what? She said, it's just like a headphone, but this is a wireless earbud you put in your ear and you can hear. Oh my goodness, I was mortified. I was so embarrassed. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. I am so sorry. I didn't know. She said, yeah, next time, ask me, oh wow, what is that? Don't start assuming things by your own perception, because you... And I was like, wow, okay, she's right. I did not approach this earbud with a neutral thought. I came with something I perceived that I've seen before and labeled it as that and called it that. That's what I'm talking about. It caused my friend, the effect of that was she was very upset that I started saying things like that to her. And I'm glad she caught me and helped me see what I really was seeing and not from my perception. This is how strong it is. We see no neutral thing. because we have no neutral thoughts. How wonderful would it be to see something as it is, and then speak of it or address it as it truly is, and not with our perception, or to see things neutral. But it's hard to do. You cannot. But rather, it's better to ask questions so you can learn and understand and not put your own bias and what you think you know on it. This is key. So you believe already you know and have seen the object. For that reason, you experience something that is supposed to be new, but you put your own thoughts to it and made it an old experience. You see neutral you do not see neutral things because sometimes it's difficult to have neutrality, because it's almost impossible. Your perception would always come into view. So how can anything or experience be neutral when you do not even know or have an approach to it from a neutral standpoint? It's always being flawed with your perception. For this reason, there are steps that you have to take and ask yourself the following things. 1. What bias or thoughts or perceptions am I bringing to the table when I see things, or when I'm addressing people or experiencing something? What bias or thoughts or perception am I bringing to the table? And that will show itself as a judgment, accusing, and even reacting. Because once that happens, the strange thing is you can't take it back. You cannot take it back. You cannot pull it back and make it so as to something that you can use to create a meaningful experience where it is just what you experience at that moment. I realize that that's very hard for a lot of people to do. Number 2. Is what I'm seeing and my perception of it, is it coming from my past or my trauma? It's especially important when you come in contact with someone. For example, you see someone sitting quietly and maybe pondering. Are you seeing that person and be like, oh my goodness, the person is in trouble? I see. Here is what I hear sometimes. You see someone sitting quietly alone with a serious look on your face or pondering. Some of the things I hear is, I'm going to list them. One is, is that person depressed? Number 2, is that person mad? Number 3, something is wrong. That's why they're pondering. Well, I'll take it from something that I experienced before. When I saw someone doing that and I approached, it turned out to be none of those. It was just that the person was thinking about how to approach something. They were trying to think and come up with a plan, a workable plan in their head before they do the thing. And here I was, concluding all kinds of stuff. Because when you realize you're asking all these things, what's going to happen is you're going to recognize the fact that this is the perception you're bringing to the table, you're bringing into the conversation, you're bringing to the experience, you're bringing into the room. So it's very important to recognize that. And then if you see that it's coming from your own past experiences or trauma, then pull yourself back from that. Otherwise, you would mess up the experience you're supposed to have at that moment with what you've experienced in the past. Sometimes it could be a mess. And a mess like that is hard to clean, because then you're not able to kind of just sweep it under the rug, because it becomes big and then you have to deal with it. Number 3, what is involved in the processing of events that just happened? What exactly is involved? Ask yourself that question. You might see something that might be going on, and you're approaching it from a standpoint that something is happening and needs to be dealt with. Rather, or is it, oh my goodness, I've seen this before, I know what is happening, and then going in full force and recognizing that. And then after going in full force, you realize, oh my goodness, I made a mistake. It wasn't what I thought. That's how your processing can be messed up. If you are not careful in learning and understanding this. It's that simple. Number 4 is the situation I am dealing with truly being seen specifically for what just happened? Or am I bringing my own baggage and carrying it into the situation, or my own feeling or hang-ups, and bringing it to the situation? Because guess what? Once you start asking this question to yourself, you will start learning to take the time to assess things as they're coming to you, rather than jumping the gun and coming up with things that may not be a part of the situation at all. And once you do that, you will recognize something powerful. You will recognize that is giving you a chance to find out what truly is happening. Because guess what? It'll make room, I should say, for learning. It make room for understanding. Make room for seeing things in a different perspective. Or it could be that something may not be what you perceive it to be. And when that's going on, you can always begin to create something that would teach you what might be going on. Because once you learn what is really going on, you'll be able to have make an informed decision and give yourself a chance to rectify the situation, or even save yourself in the process and not put your foot in your mouth. Because when that happens, it is not fun. It's not fun by any means. It's not fun by how, no matter how you look at it, it's not fun. And because it's not fun, you begin to create something that gives you an understanding of yourself and the people around you. There's nothing better than having a good understanding and growing from it. It's very important. Number 5, be honest with yourself. Seriously, be honest with yourself and speak to yourself about how you're truly approaching the situation. Because once you're honest with yourself and realize that nobody's going to penalize you, nobody's going to create a discourse for you, but rather you're choosing to be honest so that you can learn more. And then, because you're being honest and learning more will be available to you to learn. That's the best part. So that you become informed, you become intentional in what you say, what you do, how you perceive. And of course, the cause and effect will be something that you know you willingly had a hand in. Number 6. Perception is how you relate, is the relationship between cause and effect. Always. Your perception. Be aware of that. Become an individual that spots this perception has a direct relation between cause and effect. The moment you know that, I think it creates a safe place for you to be able to break things down. And then as you're learning about yourself, you're also learning about what is happening or what you're seeing and how best to describe or go through it. No matter what you do, neutrality is not easy. It's not easy at all. And it takes almost, if you're not careful, about a lifetime to learn it. And when you get an opportunity to learn, take it. Because in the end, it helps you understand the world better. It helps you understand people you deal with better. It helps you understand what exactly are you beginning to, I don't know if I would say indulge in, but involve yourself with others around you. Because once you know how you're doing that, you can always learn how to pull back. Because pulling back and not putting your foot in your mouth is always, always a great thing. Because guess what? You'll be much more pleasant to be with. That's my take. You'll be a much more pleasant individual to be with. And once you understand this, it becomes freeing because you start recognizing the amount of self-discipline that takes place to be able to not put your foot in your mouth, but recognize what to do to relate to one another and grow and learn and become someone who is not just involved in the situations that you experience, but someone who is there to help solve problems, to work together, to come up with a resolution and make clear decisions that will affect everybody. I mean, everybody. This is how we relate to each other. And when we relate to each other and come up and then recognize our pitfalls that we keep bringing up to mess up things for us, I think that's how we become stronger, more resilient, and open to other levels of learning. Because I think once you do more of that, you begin to see yourself in a different light. You really, truly begin to see yourself in a different light. Because once you do that, I kid you not, the whole world looks different. It looks really different for you. And then, you judge less. You perceive with an open mind and a way to learn that you can work with one another. How do I put this? Experiencing this level of, close to neutrality. We hope we could have neutrality, but I understand that our minds are always pulling things out. But the closest thing to neutrality is maintaining a sense of self, but being open to other voices that can give wisdom, that can give guidance, understanding, and have us grow. I think that's more important than any perception we bring to the table. I recall growing up, and my dad will give me something to do. Sometimes he used to give me assignments to do aside from my homework. Yes, I had a dad who would do that. He would give me a homework from his own, from either my textbook, or he would make up the questions and say, address this tomorrow when you come from school. So aside from my homework, I would have to do my homework and then do my dad's homework that he gave me. And in the beginning, I wasn't receptive to it, because once again, I brought my perception and was like, oh, he didn't want me to watch TV. He just wanted me to just do this. But then the homework that my father would give me aside from the school homework was all about understanding sentence structures. So you give me paragraphs and make me rewrite them, and then I have to look through to make sure that the punctuations were right and spellings were right. Because if I forget one and don't check the spelling, my dad will call me on it like that. So I had to be doing that. Well, one day I came home to do the homework, and then I checked and I realized that what he gave me was not the usual stuff I got. So then I immediately started thinking, oh my goodness, Dad thinks I cannot do this. So he decided to give me something else. But then I started looking at it that, oh, I'm a disappointment. See, your perception comes up. Meanwhile, my dad never said that. He never said anything on that. Oh, I'm a disappointment to him. I can't do anything right. I can't believe I messed up like this. Now I can't get anything done. He's going to think, there's no points. It's useless. And meanwhile, my perception was driving this, and my own hang-ups, because people used to tell me that I wouldn't amount to anything. So I started bringing all that in there. It was just a mess. And it worried me a bit. So for the 2 days that he didn't give me anything, I finally I couldn't handle it, and I was like, Dad, why did you not give me any homework again? They helped me. And then he's like, oh, they did? I didn't think it would help you, but it did. Do tell me how it helped you. And I perceived, like I said, I went on to tell him why it helped me, and he was like, oh wow, I didn't think you were paying attention much, but here you are, you're telling me that you do use what I teach you, and the homework I give you, you're beginning to look forward to it. You were looking forward to that, and then when it stopped, you were like, what went wrong? Yes. But I recognize how I brought my own perception of my own baggage to that. And then so, like I said, I worried and I complained, and then he was like, no. It's just that there was nothing for me to give you. You finished the entire book that I put in. So unless I go and buy you a new book and give you an assignment from it, so I can tell you, and then you can learn something on your own and then create a story, and create a question and then do it. And I was like, but then that's all depends on me. I wanted you to tell me. And it's funny that I wanted my dad I started relying on him giving me that stuff. So if I go to work, if I go to school and I come home and I'm thinking, wait a minute, I need to slack off or just sit there and watch TV, I would literally feel guilty, because I'll be thinking, oh my goodness, I'm wasting all this time to do this. And especially TV on a weekday was not encouraged at all. It was not encouraged. Weekends, sure, you can binge watch anything if you want to. At that time, there wasn't any way to binge anyways. So it was just a matter of stay there and watch the news or music videos, and none of them were going to make it for me. So I look forward to it. And then, thank goodness, my dad went and bought another book and started giving me homework, because now that I look back about it, I think it was probably me using that it was like a security blanket for me to come home and see the homework like that, and not getting it felt like there was something wrong. It was just odd, So once you recognize this, I know I recognized that with my dad and with our relationship, and it helped me grow more into the adults that I am today. And then I was able to become more appreciative of how my dad is taking the time to make sure that he gives me more stuff to do. And I, of course, keep me occupied so I don't get in trouble. That's the main thing. Because getting in trouble is just the worst thing to do. And I recognize that as something that helped me a great deal. I hope today was helpful. And what I discuss about neutrality is something that we don't have. And everything we come into contact with or what we see and experience comes from somewhere. And once I think we all become aware of this, I think we will experience things a little differently. That's my hope. So that's why I'm thinking that today's discussion was helpful, because it gives you a tool or something to go over on your own and see where you're cutting yourself short. How are you allowing yourself not to notice this? Then make some changes in your life to become much more aware of the cause and effects. All right? Those of you who listen on YouTube, please like and subscribe to us. Twitter, like us and follow us. On Facebook, this coming Tuesday, I'll be doing a live stream on Facebook at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time. U.S. Eastern Time. I don't know from wherever on the globe where something would take place. But anyways, the time zone I'm giving you is the time zone that I will be doing it here in the U.S. So tune in and send comments, and then I can ask questions, whatever you need, we can dialogue together. Those of you who want to write to me, ask questions, or ask me to discuss a topic, write to me at love, L-U-V, the number 4, give, G-I-V-E, live, L-I-V-E, at gmail.com. Once again, L-U-V, love, 4, the number 4, give, live, at gmail.com. You can always reach me when you send me your questions or comments, and I'll be certain to answer them for you. Thank you for joining me once again. My name is Rhoda Aglago. Signing off, and of course next week I'll be back with more stuff to talk about. Tune in for the live stream on Tuesday. All right, at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you. Have an awesome week, everybody. Enjoy your time with your family. And of course, when you work, take the time to just be grateful you're here. Love you. Bye.